Welcome to the Voice of the Victim podcast. I'm Ryan.
And I am Rosie.
How are you, Rosie?
I'm so energized right now.
I bet you are.
By that I mean I'm really not.
What time did you start work today?
6:30.
What time did you get home?
5:45.
Yeah, so Rosie's had a really long day. I'm very grateful that she's still willing to record tonight. I appreciate that, and I think our listeners will too.
Thank you.
Anyway, I have a short, sweet review to share this week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to read that?
Sure. It says, "You guys are amazing. I love this podcast, and it's so informative. Keep it up, guys." Smiley face.
And it's from Jeannie Stewart, 168 on Apple Podcasts. So thank you. From Great Britain.
Woo!
Very cool. All right. And tonight's case is a missing persons case, and the person is still missing. There's still no answers as to what exactly has happened. But we want to thank Jules for suggesting this episode. She reached out to us on Instagram, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. How long ago did she suggest this one?
I don't remember. But when I looked into it, it grabbed me right away, and I wanted to cover it as soon as possible because missing person.
Yeah, thank you, Jules.
And I can't remember when she sent the message, but it was, sitting in the Instagram requests,
I'm sure
and we hadn't seen it, so I don't know how long it's been.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah. All right. Well, you ready to jump into it, Rosie?
Mm-hmm. Corinna Slusser was born on October 6, 1998, to a woman named Sabina Tuorto. Sabina was a single mother to 2 children, including Corinna's brother Justin, and she worked the 3rd shift as a nurse. They lived in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh, that 3rd shift must have been rough.
What is that exactly?
I think it's the overnight shift. Let me see. What is 3rd shift?
Because we have a friend who's a nurse, and she works terrible hours. That's probably what it's called.
Yeah, 3rd shift is the graveyard shift between 10 p.m. and midnight until 6 a.m.
Ew.
So,
and
yikes.
I'm complaining about starting at 6:30.
Yeah, well, anyway, she had a lot on her plate as a mother. But Karina, her whole life growing up, she had a passion for hair and makeup, and she dreamed of becoming a professional makeup artist someday.
In high school, she was on the cheerleading squad, but her true passion for makeup was always in the back of her mind, and she would talk about her dreams to her friends and her classmates. Corinna was a hardworking girl, and by the time she was 16, she already had a job in addition to her schooling.
But she wasn't a fan of the small-town life, and eventually wanted to get out and experience the city life.
Corinna eventually wanted to make her way to New York City to be closer to the fashion and makeup scene.
Of course, before you can do that, you got to finish school. Mm-hmm. You got to pay your dues like everyone else. And Corinna was starting to struggle with that. Her and her mom, Sabina, didn't get along super well at the time because she started to kind of not care about school as much or work and was just really focused on getting out and starting her future. And Sabina said that she was growing more distant from the family as she got older. Now, part of this was when Corinna got in trouble for underage drinking, and then another time she got caught shoplifting. And that's when Sabina was starting to realize her daughter wasn't hanging out with the best crowd. And she started doing things to try to help.
Corinna was also starting to struggle with school. She was failing in many of her classes, and also had quit working. In an attempt to help, her mom enrolled Corinna in an online charter school, hoping it would take off some of the pressure. I can relate to Corinna a little bit. I feel like I can understand where Corinna was coming from, especially with the being distant from her parents. Teenage years are so hard. I was the same way with my mom and dad. Just bucking whatever they had to say and more focused on my own desires, and I didn't shoplift, but
Yeah.
But I get that part. I think a lot of people do when you're a teenager.
I can't imagine that. It's got to be tough as a parent in that situation because you don't want to smother your kids by trying to control them, but you also don't want to be too laid back or lax. I have no idea what I would do.
Right. When Burrito started shoplifting, I tried to really give him a stern talking to. That's the only way we can relate. It's our cats. Corinna would actually go stay with her Aunt Julie often because she clashed with her mother a lot. Again, Sabina was desperate to find a way to help her daughter, since she had a lot on her own plate working the night shift as a nurse. So both Sabina and Julie agreed that Corinna would move in with Julie in December of 2016.
But apparently those plans ended up being delayed because of some things Sabina found out about Corinna's last visit to Julie, which we don't know exactly what that info was.
Okay. This change of plans upset Corinna. She dropped out of school since she had been struggling with her grades and would have been required to attend summer school to qualify for graduation. Oof.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, she had been more focused on her future passions and just lost interest in school. And I get Corinna's mindset here. I don't talk about this very often, but I actually did pretty bad in school in general. The only time I did well was when I had to get on the B honor roll for 1 quarter so I could get the car insurance discount. But other than that, I was kind of head in the clouds the rest of the time. Fortunately, I was able to graduate, but I see how Corinna got to this point. Consumed with her creative passions, I'm still like that.
Interesting.
This episode of Voice of the Victim podcast is supported by Best Fiends. We all have a lot of crazy stuff on our minds right now, but one of my favorite ways to get my mind off of all that is by playing Best Fiends. You've heard us talk about it. It's a very fun game, and because of that, it's very popular, with over 100 million global downloads. So if you haven't yet, maybe it's time you jump on the wagon. Best Fiends has found a way to be both very engaging and challenging, while also feeling laid back and casual, because none of us need more stress right now. So Rosie, will you explain Best Fiends to our listeners, just in case they haven't heard of it?
The best way I can explain Best Fiends is a really laid-back puzzle game, and instead of doing fruit or bling, you're using little bugs as your allies, and you're making matches with different flowers or leaves or even mushrooms. Super cute. I've been going at it at Best Fiends for the past week, like hardcore, and now I'm at level 431. What's really cool is I feel like once I pass level 400, they threw in light bulbs in my puzzles. And when I make a match including a light bulb, it changes into a different color, and I have to make another match using that color. Kind of fun. Changes it up.
Really cool. And that's a good segue into the fact that they update it every month with new events, so it never gets old.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even need to be connected to the internet to progress through the game. So engage your brain with fun puzzles and collect tons of cute characters. Trust me, with over 100 million downloads, this 5-star rated mobile puzzle game is a must-play. Download Best Fiends for free on the Apple App Store or Google Play. That's friends without the R. Best Fiends.
Corinna also struggled with severe depression, and in April of 2017, she actually attempted to take her own life. Corinna was taken to the hospital where she spent a week in the intensive care unit. Then she spent 3 days in the psych ward where she was given group counseling sessions.
But during these sessions, Corinna was very reserved. She never really opened up about her struggles. And again, I get that. It's really hard to open up, especially when you're forced into therapy with a group rather than seeking it out for yourself and having a private session where you're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
No one, especially a teenager, wants to believe they have something wrong with them. So I can totally understand why she wouldn't want to open up in this situation. She's already having such a hard time that she tried to take her life. So you can't blame her.
Mm-mm. In June of 2017, Corinna told her mom that she'd gotten a job at a Cracker Barrel about a half hour away, and that she was going to be moving in with a friend in the area. Oh, if I was a mom, I wouldn't like that.
I know. Well, that's why we're not parents, right?
Yeah.
It'd be hard.
But unknown to her mom, while Sabina was at the hospital, she actually met an older man who offered her a pathway to her dreams. Oh, no. He told her that he could give her a place to stay in New York City. His name was Giovanni Piguaro.
Yeah, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but I don't really care
Piguaro.
about the pronunciation of his name. So
I feel bad for Sabina already, like that.
I know.
Not good.
It's a bad situation for both Sabina and Corinna.
In July of 2017, she left her hometown and traveled to New York City, taking nothing but her phone, ID, and the clothes on her back.
Yeah, and there's an interesting reason for this. Apparently, she had only worked at the Cracker Barrel long enough to get one paycheck, and she still owed her roommate money for rent when she left. So her roommate kept all her stuff when she left because of the money she owed.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
This kid.
Starting out with a lot of bad decisions.
And I'm sure the roommate was like, oh, thanks. Thanks for all your junk that I have to throw away now.
Well, no, the roommate demanded to keep it because she owed her rent.
I thought it was just like, well, I don't have money, so here's my old mattress. But
no, like she wouldn't let her take her stuff with her.
Oh, Corinna. She's got a little growing up to do. Well, this led to another clash with her mom, but she continued to convince Sabina that everything was okay. When she arrived in New York City, everything seemed to be going okay. She kept in regular contact with her family and friends back home, and based on what she said, it was a great situation, and they had no reason to worry.
Now, on August 25th, 2017, the Manhattan police got a call from Corinna, which is never a good thing.
She said she was at the Harlem Vista Hotel in Manhattan, and that while she was taking a shower, someone had stolen $300 from her.
And this is when the truth came out about what her life had been like since moving to NYC.
She knew the person who stole her money. It was the man she moved to NYC with, Giovanni Piguaro. He was actually her pimp, and she referred to him as Daddy. Yuck. When she got out of the shower and realized he had taken her money, she confronted him about it. But she told the police that in response, he grabbed her throat and slammed her against the wall.
So he probably forced her to call him Daddy. But when police arrived there, she was crying, still very traumatized and shaken up from what happened. But now that we know what kind of guy this is, I just am very curious what he was doing at the hospital in the first place when he met Corinna. Like, was he there to scout out girls that were struggling or in a rough spot, or was he there for help himself? Like, in what circumstances does a pimp meet one of their girls at the hospital?
You know, knowing that she was in the part of the hospital where she was, like, receiving counseling and stuff, and was she in the psych ward, technically?
Yeah, that's what her mom said.
Then I'm sure he was there to scout out girls. Maybe he was even working there. Like,
Ooh.
You know what I mean? You hear stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, possibly. But we don't know, so we don't want to speculate on that. But, yeah, it's possible.
Anyways, Piguaro was arrested and charged with harassment, third-degree assault, and criminal obstruction of breathing or blood circulation. Then a temporary order of protection was automatically issued against him, barring him from contact with Corinna.
Yeah, and this particular event would become a massive clue in the mystery of what happened next. But this also led to her mom kind of getting a hint of what was going on.
Really quick, Corinna is still 16 at this point?
No, she was almost 19 when she moved to NYC.
Okay, good to know. A copy of this order of protection was actually sent to Corinna's only officially known address, her mom's house.
Yeah, so this was a shock to Sabina because as far as she knew, everything was great at this time. That's what Corinna kept telling her. And when she asked Corinna about it, she said everything was fine. She just said that some guy took money from her and then attacked her, but that everything was fine. But now it was on record, at least with the police, that she wasn't exactly fulfilling her dreams of becoming a makeup artist. And the man who offered her a place in New York had other plans for her.
On September 8th, 2017, Corinna had posted photos of a $700 a month apartment in the Bronx. She had just moved into it, saying she'd finally gotten her own place and, quote, forever dream accomplished. But just a week later, her grandfather passed away. When Sabina talked to her about coming to her grandfather's funeral, Corinna said it was, quote, ghetto where she was, and she wanted to come home and to go to the funeral.
It's odd to me that she would say that after posting about how excited she was to have her own place. It's almost like someone else had made that post for her.
I see.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
And when she did post this, Sabina was like, where are you getting money to be able to rent this apartment for $750 a month? Like, Sabina didn't know where her daughter was getting the money. But that's when another odd thing happened.
Sabina got a call from Corinna saying that her social security card and driver's license had been stolen, so she couldn't fly. Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, again, this seems like a bad sign. Like, what are the odds this stuff would be gone? Maybe did the pimp steal it or something? But he got arrested, so if he had it, you'd think she'd have that stuff back. It's, again, very odd that this stuff would happen to be stolen right before this trip.
Yeah, especially both of them, because who holds their social security card on them?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like someone else is saying these things for her or knows what to say to get out of coming to this funeral. But even after talking to her mom, saying she couldn't fly, she did tell her that she wanted to come home to Pennsylvania to visit, which she could drive to.
So they planned on Corinna coming to Pennsylvania the day Sabina got home from Florida. Sabina flew to Florida for the funeral on September 19th, and Corinna was supposed to arrive back home on the 20th, so she'd be there when her mom returned home. But once Sabina was in Florida, she wasn't able to get in touch with her daughter.
I can't imagine that sinking feeling either. The panic she would have on her plane ride home, not being able to get a hold of her daughter. And when she did arrive home, she confirmed that Corinna had never been there, and now she couldn't get in touch with her at all.
At that point, after not being able to get in touch with her daughter for days, Sabina reported Corinna missing.
Remember, at this point, Sabina didn't know that her daughter had been a sex worker since she moved to NYC. She just had questions, like, where's she getting this money, and why did this guy strangle her after stealing her money? Like, she was just getting bits and pieces, but not the full picture. And what her line of work actually was only hidden within the police report from the hotel incident, because her mom hadn't seen the police report. She had only seen the order of protection.
Okay, got it.
Which didn't have all the details probably. So, but again, Corinna had been telling Sabina everything was fine up until this point. So it was kind of putting her mind at ease, even though, like a mother does, she was worried. But now, suddenly, she's completely out of touch.
The last time her family officially heard from her was on September 20th, and the last time she was seen was early in the morning of that day, leaving the Haven Motel on Woodhaven Boulevard in Queens, New York City.
And this is by 68th Avenue in the Rego Park neighborhood. I really hope I said that right. But this is why we're talking about Corinna today. It's because she's still missing. Her mother's still desperately trying to find her. And the reason we need to be especially aware of this case is because last year a photo surfaced in a Facebook ad or some kind of ad showing a picture of Corinna. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let's talk about what else we know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In November of 2018, a year later, a man named Ishi Colin Woney was charged with sex trafficking a woman who was only identified at the time as Victim 1.
But, okay, so he was arrested at this point, and Victim 1 was making accusations against him. But in August 2020, a photo of this Victim 1 and Ishi surfaced in an online ad, and in the photo with them was another girl who Sabina Tuerto is absolutely positive was her daughter, Corinna.
At the time she went missing, Corinna had blonde hair and blue eyes and was very into wearing makeup. But in this photo, she was much thinner, with both darker hair and eyes and very minimal, if any, makeup.
Yeah, so at first glance, it's like, why does she have different color eyes? It could be really easy to write it off and think it couldn't be the same girl, because whose eye color changes? But the sex trafficking industry is a scary place because a lot of people behind it are very careful, very crafty at what they do. It's very possible that if Corinna is being trafficked for sex still, her pimp forces her to wear colored contacts to change her eye color and doesn't allow her to do her makeup or anything the way she used to look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pimps are smart. Like, they're trying to hide her identity. Investigators involved with this case believe that in the time after arriving in New York City, Corinna had been used by several pimps, one of which being Aishi Woni, the man from the photo. The prosecution of Woni alleged that he used coercion, force, and fraud to force victim 1 into sex acts for money, bringing her to different states for this purpose. He even bought online ad space to promote his girls.
Yeah, and one of these ads was promoting a 2-girl special featuring the photo we described earlier of victim 1 standing alongside Corinna Slusser and Ishii.
That's disgusting. They also found that between September 10th to 20th of 2017, she had exchanged over 800 text messages with Woni.
And again, the 20th is the day she disappeared, so she was in contact with him leading up to her disappearance.
800? That's a lot.
Yeah, that's more than we do in a month, you'd think.
Let's not get crazy. But,
but I mean, we're in person a lot. So.
Yeah. It's said that on that day, she and Woni got into an argument because victim 1 was upset about his relationship with Corinna. Then Woni said he would take Corinna to another hotel and give her to another man.
And that's the last time she was seen, the morning of September 20th, 2017, leaving the hotel.
Woni pleaded guilty to 4 out of the 5 charges against him in a plea deal. In May of 2019, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison.
Sabina Tuerto was at the sentencing hearing, Corinna's mom, and she asked Ishii to reveal where he had taken her daughter that day, because he, by all accounts, is the last person who saw her, who was with her.
Mm-hmm.
He told victim 1 that he was taking her to a different pimp and that she wouldn't be a problem anymore. But what did he say in response to Sabina, Rosie?
Quote unquote, he said, "Honestly, I don't know. I never passed her off to anybody. Is she dead or alive? Honestly, I'm not sure, but I pray she's alive."
How could he not know at least where he parted ways with her?
That's... What?
To help them find her.
Right.
And I think it's a pretty good chance he's lying here to avoid implicating himself in any more serious charges.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully he didn't take her life, but if he did, he probably wouldn't admit it here. There's another possibility that he did hand her off to someone else, which is also really terrifying because she's still missing, meaning that if she's part of a sex trafficking ring, she's probably their captive and her quality of life is terrible. And we have no idea what exactly happened, but we're going to share her original description as well as post her older photos and the more recent photo to our Instagram so we can all be aware of what she looks like. And keep our eyes open, especially the newer photo, because that's probably closer to what she looks like now. No, so, Rosie, will you go over this description?
Yes. It says, Caucasian female, blonde hair, blue eyes. Slusser has a tattoo on her right hip and a tattoo of a large flower in black ink in the center of her chest between her breasts. A photo of the chest tattoo is posted with this case summary. Slusser may use the first name Carissa, and her ears are pierced.
Yeah. So, again, now she has brown hair and brown eyes. At least she did in that photo. But her mom was very positive that it's her in the photo. So, definitely familiarize yourself with that. I just want to talk about Sabina for a minute, too. She was shocked when that newly surfaced photo came out of her daughter, and like us, she was also afraid that her daughter was forced into changing her appearance because even certain family members didn't recognize her when they saw the photo.
Really?
But Sabina was absolutely positive.
Right. Sabina knows that the girl in the photo is her daughter. She said, "I'm her mother. I know my daughter. I know that's my Corinna. It looks like they have dressed her down and made her look different. I don't believe that she would have chosen to look like that. She was always so into her hair and makeup. This just doesn't look like her.
Yeah. And she also fears that because she looks so different from her photos on the missing posters and her photos on social media, the people might fail to recognize her even if they walk past her on the subway, which is another reason we're going to share her most recent photo.
Mm-hmm. Sabina feels disheartened because there are so many missing girls in New York City alone and across the country. In her words, she said, "She's just one more drugged-up lost soul. She's a clever girl, but she's from a small town. She doesn't have the street knowledge to survive out there."
That's really sad. But if you want to get to know Corinna a little more and I can't say that word, familiarize yourself with what she looks like. She was pretty active on Instagram. She had posted just 10 days before she disappeared. I think getting familiar with her on there might make it easier to recognize her if you ever did come across her, because there's a lot of photos.
Mm-hmm.
You can get to know her face better. But if you want more information about Corinna, we want to direct you to listen to episode 183 of the Vanish podcast. As always, Marissa did an amazing job putting that episode together, and you can hear a lot more from Corinna's mom, Sabina. She actually, Marissa interviewed her. So definitely recommend that. But to wrap up, we're going to share a quick refresher on the warning signs that we all need to be aware of and watch out for. That could be an indication someone might be involved in sex trafficking.
Sabina wants to help other parents be aware of the signs that their children may be falling victim to sex trafficking. She said, quote, "No one should have to go through what I have. Now I look back at it, I can see that she was displaying all the signs, but at the time I had no idea what was happening."
Yeah, so now we're going to share a list of warning signs that the Daily Mail actually posted within their article about Corinna, because it's always a good time for a refresher on this. But this is taken from the Shared Hope International site. So, Rosie, will you read that?
Sure. Warning signs a person is being trafficked. Signs of physical abuse such as burn marks, bruises, or cuts. Unexplained absences from school or truancy. Dresses less appropriately than previously. Sexualized behavior. Overly tired or falls asleep in class. Withdrawn, depressed, or distracted. Brags about making or having lots of money. Displays expensive clothes, accessories, or shoes. A new tattoo, as tattoos are often used by pimps as a way to brand victims. Has an older boyfriend. New friends with different lifestyle or gang involvement. Disjointed family connections and running away. And lastly, living with friends or experiencing homelessness.
So it makes me wonder how long Corinna was actually involved with these people. If maybe she did have connections to them sooner than when she went to the hospital.
Maybe.
But we don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know about this case. But hopefully the truth about Corinna will come out eventually. But anyone with information related to Corinna Slusser's whereabouts is urged to contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at tips.fbi.gov, or also the NYPD tip line at 800-577-TIPS. And we'll post that in the show notes too, just because this is still active, and I'm hoping that at least making people aware of it and familiar with her might make an impact. So,
Right.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you, Rosie, for doing this episode, because I think this is a very important episode.
Yeah, I do too.
One that needs to get out as soon as possible.
It's a frustrating episode too, because like as we go through it, in my head, I'm thinking, why isn't Sabina like seeing that? You know, like why isn't she dragging her daughter back to the house? But it's just
well, she was 18.
Yeah,
when the real stuff started going down.
That's the thing. Like once your kid's an adult, and like, it's just I can't imagine the pain a mother would go through, or a father, seeing their child make these decisions and not really having a way to help. you know, until
it would have to be so hard.
Yeah, I just can't. Ugh, yuck. But yeah,
So,
hopeful something will come.
yeah, me too. So thank you to all the parents out there that are doing their best, even though it's really hard. Yeah, you're doing really important work. So, well, thank you for listening. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, do you want to talk about our newest Patreon episodes really quick?
Sure.
Cool, you should do that. I'll listen.
Gotta be honest, I can't remember them off the top of my head right now. Do you remember them?
Yeah. That's not good.
Ever since COVID started, my memory's gotten worse and worse. Okay, so the last one we did was... Oh, where did it even go?
It was a good one, let me tell you, even though we don't remember the name of it.
Guess I'll just find it real quick and then make the edit.
Ryan is working on a new Patreon episode that will go hand in hand with the episode we just did.
About MK Ultra.
So if you want to hear me absolutely flip my lid, because I get super worried about that kind of stuff, then you'll want to check that out.
Yeah, the latest Patreon episode we put out, number 19, was about Albert and Ruth Snyder. And it was a pretty wild story from Queens, New York, the same place that Corinna went missing from. But this was in 1927.
Right.
So it was pretty interesting. And yes, the MK Ultra follow-up episode will be coming out shortly after that. We're hoping to record it later this week, possibly Friday or Saturday. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much to all of our patrons. We do have a couple that we haven't reached out yet to. So if you're listening to this and we haven't asked you if you want a shout out yet, go ahead and message us and let us know. Otherwise, I'll send you messages as soon as I can. But yeah, thank you all so much.
Oh, I do have something to say really quick.
Okay.
I'm not going to start a book club, guys. I just I can't do it because I hate book clubs, so I wouldn't subject you guys to do that to me.
I forgot about that.
But I am reading a book right now that's really, really good. If you like World War II stories, it's called Salt to Sea by Ruta Sepetys. Sepetys. And it's so good, and it's so different from normal World War II books that I read.
Really?
And it's super historically accurate, and I'm learning so much about World War II that I had no idea before.
So it's a completely true story, or is it's a story written
fiction.
Around? Okay.
And I really want to write a Patreon episode about some of the events that are happening, because I had no idea they existed. It's wild.
Yeah, there's definitely no shortage of things to talk about.
So if you need a good
history,
I would say Salt to the Sea.
Cool.
That's it.
Well, thanks for that suggestion. I don't really read, so I'm going to pass on that. But yeah,
all right.
I think that's about it. Keep your eyes open. Again, we're going to post Corinna's picture on Instagram. So,
all right.
Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.